So starting early this week, shockingly, this is a take two, so you can only imagine after watching any of these how absolutely abysmally bad it would be for me to actually retake this. I didn't have my screen up on the right, and I was kind of trying to buy some time. Uh, so anyway, this is hopefully a little better. In the least shocking sort of thing is that Scott lost again, going to a perfect 0-6. And to say his team is bad, I don't think puts it in proper context, even 0-6. He's got 674 total points scored so far for the season. The second behind him is Val with 780. Now, ironically enough, that's who beat him this week. Val beat him 120 to 91 with Pitts and Harrison coming through. What's interesting on Scott's standpoint, he's got Josh Allen, who's winning a bunch of games, looking decent. I got him as a starting quarterback in a couple other leagues, but he has not been the Josh Allen of the past. They do run the ball a lot with Cook, and that's probably hurting them. But once again, zero players above 20. There's no way to play in this league, and almost once again looks like Rich Miller saved him with an 88-point performance for the week low. But almost once again, he almost came in last again with his 91 points. So no bueno. Nice TDs, unfortunately, has been dropping lately. Tortuga beat him with Kelsey with 25 and Smith with 20. He's got Stevenson with 23. Aaron Rodgers is your starting quarterback. Blame it on whatever, but I mean, he's probably just not going to be the one to pull you through. And he was the second highest point scorer for TDs with 17. Tropical depression, which I mentioned before, who had the lowest week scoring. I was lucky enough to face him because I did not put up monster points. I put up 106 on his 88, and on my end it was Robinson and Daniels of the Commanders. I don't know if you saw that game, but that was an incredible finish. They last second Hail Mary for the touchdown. I tried to do some of the math. I think I still would have won even without that play, but it would have been really close. On Rich's side, again, nobody above 20 points. So he is not far behind the same boat as Scott. Val is ahead of Rich in 11th place. Again, she was the one who got the victory above Quackens. Show Me the Money, Shannon did get a victory, so that pulled her up to 10th place. Relatively close game over Care Bears. Knicks had almost 30 points for Shannon. Kittle almost 25. Olave 20 points. And Care Bears was part of the club of no one with 20 or above points, which affects things. Do you think it is time for me to get a haircut? It's time to get a little raggedy. Above Show Me the Money, oddly enough, is Care Bears. Above Care Bears is me. So there's a lot of teams that played themselves in the top half, it looks like. So Team Red Hots played Team Quackball, and really good victory for her, less than 3 points with Cousins, who, as an old commander, I really like the guy. He always seemed like a solid dude, so glad to see him having some success. But with 28 points, and then Cook, who I think I mentioned before is the reason that Allen's not doing well. Cook had more points than Allen once again with 28 points. And on Quackball side, Jacobs with 25 and Lamar with 24. But again, close, but not enough to beat Red Hots. Above Red Hots is Tortuga, who's having a really good season and still well in it. Above Tortuga is Quackball. And then this is really interesting. So I think, if I'm looking at this right, the top 4 teams all played each other, which is pretty crazy. So Ridgeback, who is in 4th, lost to Good Old Boys. Again, a close game within 5 points. Good Old Boys had Mixon with 23, but nobody else really in scoring across the board to give him 126 points total for the week. And Ridgeback was close with 121, with Kyler Murray with 22, McBride with 21. So the next game was between Greg Hitchcock and Tommy Brodigan, and between that, Tommy won decisively with 151. No one was close to him in total points, and closest second was almost 23 points behind him. So he really crushed it with people whose names you recognize, but no one really special. Otten. I did not know much about Mr. Otten, who was a tight end for Tampa Bay that scored 29 points. Purdy with 26. Jahmyr Gibbs, who I have another league. Got to stop playing with my hair. Getting this mad scientist thing on for side. Jahmyr Gibbs had 20. Kyler Williams with 22. McCain with 26. So just way too much to overcome. On Hitchcock's side, he has the tremendous CeeDee Lamb, the last bastion of hope in Dallas, that scored almost 40 points and almost single-handedly gave Dallas the win. But boy, Dallas is still Dallas. So as a Commanders fan, I can't be too upset with that. And that's it. That leaves good old boy. That leaves Hitchcock in 3rd, and Tommy in 2nd, and Lance in 1st. By record, interestingly enough, Lance is 7-1, and the 3rd ranked Hitchcock is 6-2, where Tommy is 5-3. I think these records are the way they are in the rankings because I think it has to do with chances of maybe getting into the playoffs. I don't understand why they would have Tommy above Hitchcock in this case, with the more points for Greg still has the greatest points for the season with 1030, and similar, actually a better record at 6-2. So back on the playoffs, remember it's top 2 teams in each division. So if the playoffs for today, that'd be Tommy and Don, and then on the other side of the bracket would be Lance and Greg Hitchcock. Anyway, I hope everyone's enjoying the season. A quick update on Dina. The latest MRI went well on Thursday. She did have an incident that morning. She was standing in the kitchen, and she had her head on the counter when I walked out there. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I don't know." She lifts her head back up and puts it back down on the counter. I'm like, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I don't know." And then she pushed off the table, and she just slipped and fell on her back. She didn't know how she got there, so that was really kind of scary. But when I got her to the doctor's appointment, which happened to be that day, otherwise we probably would have went in anyway, they said no, she might have just been had a long weekend and stuff like that. So they seemed kind of nonplussed, and the MRI also came back positive. So that all seemed to work out. But again, scary times. Anyway, sorry for putting that in the center. On the fantasy football side, one thing about there being the 2 divisions is that TD's and which I think is Zach, right? So Zach and Rich's 3-5 record is really hurting them because they have to get up to 6-2 to get to where Greg Hitchcock is. So I think it's safe to say that both of those are out also. So Zach and Rich, I'm officially calling it. They're out for the season. Joining Scott Cherry. I think I had Rich on the chopping block earlier, but I think that sinks it just because it's going to be hard for me to catch up to either Greg or Lance. Interesting in the East is you have Tommy at the top with 5-3, and then everybody else has a 4-4 record besides Scott Cherry. So really anyone can win that second position by what do you call it? Win-loss record alone. So anyway, hope you're all doing well, and I'll try better next time. Send me some messages on the message board. Give me some stuff to work with. But hope you're all doing well. Talk soon. Take care. Bye.